to go into YouTube's back room and end it. Make sure that it
Shit,
ends
I
there,
just I just
and
started
then you're
too
done.
soon. Okay. Goodbye. Thank you. Hello and welcome to absolute chaos of technical difficulties. Because I am the one who is hosting now, not Brian. It is I. I am the alpha. I am the alpha and the omega apparently. All right, let me just see if I can get this up. So yeah, there you go. We're going
I
to see that.
am not certain we're actually broadcasting.
No, we are broadcasting. We are broadcasting.
Yes, there's a delay.
Yes, there's a bit of a
I'm
delay.
sorry, there's a
That's
delay.
okay.
You're
All
right.
right. So, welcome. This is not Honey Badger Radio. This is just my channel, Gender Attic, where I discuss gender dynamics in fiction and related industry. So, the writing industry, art, and Hollywood. And I am joined by two of the members of the writers group who are on the Discord. And if you're interested in joining or being part of the writers group in the Discord, you actually that's you have to get a subscription at feedthebadger.com/subscribe. But if you're interested in just seeing the content that we do and having a look at what we do, you can just go to feedthebadger.com/ actually no, it would be badgernation.online. And if at any point throughout the show you want to send me a message about what we're doing and what we're talking about, you can do that at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of the funds, yada yada yada. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. And I went through all of that without telling you what we're actually going to be talking about. What we're going to be talking about, at least the first part, is the queer Kiwi and the death of media literacy. So yeah, so this should be a lot of fun. We're back delving back into the queer Kiwi that Brian calls rainbow shite for I think reasons that should be fairly obvious from looking at her. And then after that we're going to look at a video. I'll just load that up here. A men's only publisher is apparently for some reason YouTube is not loading up very well for me right now, so I apologize for any delay. A men's only, and as you can imagine, the internet reacts extremely poorly to this men's only publisher. There was only ever going to be the nuclear option when it comes to that. And just so you guys know, I'm also the writers who are joining me, or the writers retreat people who are joining me, are Telomnar, who currently is wearing the skin of J.R.R. Tolkien, and Doughboy, who is...
Hello.
Yeah. Say hello, Telomnar. Or don't.
I'm the one without the hat.
Yes.
And with the pipe.
And then the one who is a World War I soldier is Doughboy. He is a folklorist, so he's got a lot of relevant experience to talk about story. And Telomnar is just somebody who really likes to read. Is that fair? Is that relevant to your experience?
I like to think that I have one or two other qualities, but that's the one that matters here.
Yes. Sure, certainly. All right, so let's just get right into it. Another member of the Writers Retreat, Godcat, explained to us that the only part of this video that's really interesting is like the first 7 minutes. So, whoops, sorry, got to get back on Rainbow Bright here. And so that's what we'll respond to. She does 54 minutes of it, but I've actually gone through her content in the past, and it is oops, I forgot to uncheck some stuff. This is going to be a little bit of a rocky start, guys, because this is the first time I have ever done this. The last time I did this kind of stuff, it was Google Hangouts. Do you guys remember Google Hangouts? They were a lot of fun. They were not as complicated as this, and not at all. So this is going to be a little bit crazy. All right. So this individual likes to talk. She's not concise. I know, I'm saying that. That's crazy, huh? But yeah, this is the. But again, we've been informed that by we have it on good authority that the first 7 minutes is the only amount worth watching. So let's begin. Let's get into it.
Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. A conversation that has been happening a lot in recent years and is becoming more and more prevalent is the conversation around media literacy. Every single day.
Oh, good grief. You know what? I actually think YouTube might be shitting the bed today. What do you guys think? Did it pause for you? Can you hear me? Has everything quit on my end? Are we currently... Am I speaking into the void?
You.
Yeah, okay, good. But you can't hear the video, right? Correct? Yes? No? Telenar? Go boy?
Yes.
You can hear the video.
Cannot hear the video.
You cannot hear the video. All right. Because it's
I
just
cannot
giving
hear
me...
the video.
It's giving me
I can
the...
hear it.
It's giving me the circle of death on my end. So, let's see. For whatever reason, YouTube just does not want to work for me today. Guys, is there like is there some problems? Is anybody else having these problems with YouTube right now? I wonder if it's gone down or something.
Well, I can't actually see the video if that's supposed to be something I can do right now.
I just opened the video and it's running fine for me. I hate to suggest this, but could your internet be having some difficulties?
Oh yeah, the vols are probably choking on this right now. Okay, so...
Big retailers don't want you to
good, and now we have an ad.
have this Zoom.
Oh, good grief. Okay, skip this. Right, and then it just wants to go to like 16 minutes in. Who knows?
Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. A conversation that has been happening a lot in recent years and is becoming more and more prevalent is the conversation around media literacy. Every single day, I will see a new tweet that will say, media literacy is dead. I will see them all the time. And I think that this is a conversation that we do need to have, and just look at some sort of like examples of what this sort of means and different places in which this is being said or needs to be applied. There's so much in between the lines reading that is just not taking place anymore. Like there's so much just expecting everything to be spelt out and made extremely clear because people don't really put in the effort to think about it, to read into it, and to look anywhere beneath the surface.
Okay. Alright, so what the heck happened there? I'm getting another, I wonder if I just don't have the internet power to do this. This is crazy.
Asshole. Continue.
Alright, so... Alright. Let's just get back to where So I'm thinking that ultimately...
I wanted to talk about all of them, so I thought I would split it up over the 2 weeks. So if you would like to see
that people are not interpreting fiction in the way that she wants people to interpret it. I think that that's probably a fair assumption, because I'm pretty sure that if we went through the same fiction that she does and presented our own interpretations, that she would consider our interpretations to be media illiterate. So when people talk about media illiteracy, when I've heard them talk about it, I apologize, my eyes are... When I've heard them talk about it, it's almost always synonymous with your interpretation is incorrect because my interpretation is correct. Because it isn't my interpretation. I mean, have you guys had any experience with the term media literacy? Telenar or
mostly from this video.
Mostly from this video. Okay, gotcha. So this is like the first time you've heard of it. Well, I've heard of it. I first heard about it like months ago, or actually might have been even a year ago on Reddit. And I have a few TV shows from like 10 years ago that I still watch, and or I was interested in, that I still have Reddits that were devoted to them. And I started to look, and I saw over and over again the use of the term media literacy, but it always seemed to be used in a very specific way, and that was in response to an interpretation of something that the person disagreed with. And usually it's from a particular framework. So the use of the term media literacy, in my experience, always comes from people who are part of a left, I don't even know if I want to call it the left, a pro-institutional framework, shall we say. So all of the kind of attitudes and moral beliefs that are now associated with more of an institutional situation, like forced corporate consumption, big pharma mandates, corporate media, and all of this other stuff. What is the latest one that they've done? The latest excuse making in Canada. Big corporations import cheap labor based on incentive structures that have been put in place by the government, and they like this because they don't have to pay them as much as normal people, and or not normal people, but like people who are not native, that have lived in Canada their whole life, perhaps is the way to put it, or generationally Canadian, and they don't have to pay these people that they bring in on work visas as much. And if anybody complains about it, even though the only people that really benefits are big corporations that don't want to pay workers a living wage, if anybody complains about it, they of course get called racist. And another example is Disney once a while back had a seminar that it made its employees take. And that seminar was racism and racism in the wage gap. And so Disney corporate was making its employees take responsibility for its own choices. Because you think about it, who sets the wages in Disney? Disney corporate. And here they have a seminar on telling their employees to take responsibility for the racial wage gap. Well, who created it? Disney corporate. So it's like how these narratives manage to deflect blame from corporations, and in particular corporate and government capture, onto consumers and employees. So yeah, that particular framework, there isn't a good word for it, because it's not left, it's not liberal, it's just corporate mouthpiecing. Maybe the two of you could think of a good way of referring to it. It's like sucking up to authoritarianism. And let's go ahead. Go ahead, Telemnar.
Well, I was going to say the corporate identitarian skin suit, the corporate identitarian ideology that is wearing communism as a skin suit.
Yeah, and it's like specifically what it seems to be doing is defending this kind of corporate government capture. But anyway, so let's get into a little bit more. I'm just saying that usually when I hear the term media literacy, it's that group of people who defend the excesses of this corporate government capture that use it.
If you enjoy these videos and don't want to miss any more like it, or any of my like video essays or anything like that by the end of the year, and I am so grateful, so thank you so much. Yeah, and anyway, let's get into the assholes.
That would be us.
I don't really actually like the way that sounded. Let's get into the subreddit. Yep. Okay.
Oh, more ads, or just another everything just quit on us? What the heck are you doing, YouTube? Like, maybe it is just my internet. Oh, no, I don't want...
Am I the asshole for feeding my family a fish dinner while I eat steak and potatoes?
Did we miss
I am 3 months... Let's get into the subreddit.
We might have missed something.
Okay. Am I the asshole for feeding my family a fish dinner while I eat steak and potatoes? I am 3 months pregnant, and every day I have been craving steak and sour cream baked potatoes. I never really cared for steak. I'm more of a chicken fingers and fries girly, but I'm guessing the baby must have loved steak in its past life, because that's literally all I crave when I don't even care for it. Today, I made my family baked pizza spaghetti with fried catfish, a lunch eat salad with chopped deli meat, and dinner rolls. I'm
really curious where this is going.
Of course, I'm making the same dish I've been eating for almost every day.
Oh, no, we haven't skipped anything. This is just both random and excessive. So No, we haven't skipped anything. This is linear. She's just now talking about...
She's not reading somebody else's words?
Yeah, she's reading someone else's words from a Reddit. She didn't really tell us which Reddit. She just basically said, let's go talk about the assholes, and then said Reddit. Which, fair enough. But she didn't say what specific Reddit she's talking about. Apparently somebody in this Reddit, which somehow relates to media literacy, was talking about the meal that they prepared for their kids.
These past
Or
few
no,
months.
for...
I pretty much make 2 separate meals each night for my cravings. Last night, after I served the kids and was getting ready to make my fiance's plate, he expressed he wanted steak and potatoes like me. Mind you, he was aware of the menu because I had my meals planned the night before. I told him I only had that one steak for me. He said, well, we can share. I politely told him that I will need to eat all of my food since I'm eating for 2, and this is all I have for the night, knowing I'll most likely be hungry while you guys have a meal you can come back for seconds. I am now in his woman using pregnancy as an excuse to be selfish. I've asked what's different about today than all the other days when I've been literally eating the same shit almost every day with no complaints. He said nothing, but shook his head and said, it's the principle, babe, and walked off.
I don't know. Like so basically this, I mean, I guess she's right. This is probably a forum of assholes that talk about their significant others behind their back. But I don't know. First of all, I'm actually at this point really skeptical that this is going to come back. Oh, this is a completely different. You were right, Telnar.
This is not the same video at all.
This is not the same video. Thank you, YouTube. Like
you clicked the skip button to our next video by mistake, I'd wager.
Yeah, and now it's not even opening up. Okay, great. All right, let's do a little attempt to find this freaking video again. Oh, sorry guys. I was the one who was confused in the end. Thank you. Although that
well, anyway, we can at least deduce what Reddit video this is, what subreddit she was in, which is one of those "Am I the Asshole" ones.
Yeah. Oh, "Am I the Asshole" ones. Right. Thank you, Telenar. Oh boy, I'm glad I did this on my channel. Okay. First of all, the guy's probably just hormonal. Like, guys go through hormonal stuff during pregnancy too. So I wouldn't take it too much to heart, but of course they will.
Possible that they're both hormonal.
Yeah. It's probably insane in that household at that point in time. Well, yeah, they're probably both hormonal. They're fighting over a steak.
Half of the night, no.
Like, why doesn't someone who isn't currently pregnant or dealing with COVID actually step in and just give them another steak? Seems like an easy solution. But, gotta throw it on "Am I the Asshole" to start the process of destroying your relationship.
This sounds so clean. It's insane.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if there's only one steak, fighting is rational, in my opinion.
Okay, how did this get... Oh, good lord. Okay, here we go. Copy link. Right, here we go. Paste. There.
Going on most likely...
No, not back to that one. Go to the new one. All right, there we go. Let's see. Wow, this is a lot of stuff to keep track of. Brian does a lot of work. All right, and again, it goes to 15 minutes in. I haven't actually read the caption. Something about a Zionist conspiracy. It must go really south somewhere at the 15 minute.
Where? What is?
Okay, here we go. Back to the beginning. Sorry guys, like, for whatever reason, YouTube is really slow for me today. Maybe it's because I have so many open. Alright, let me see.
You might be straining your internet connection.
Yeah.
It is working fine for me.
The voles are dying on me. Alright. We got some chat going on here. Okay. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Not much. Alright. Men need calories too. Yeah. Actually, it's a misnomer, this eating for 2 business. While we're waiting for this to start to load up, for God's sake. It's actually a misnomer. You're not really eating for 2. You need at most like 200 additional calories. So she's if she's eating for 2, she's setting a really bad precedent for herself. She's gonna have like 100 pounds of weight to lose after she gives birth, only 20 of it which will be in any way related to the actual child. All right, let's see. Come on, you. Good grief. This is really insanely, like, I mean, is this not insane? Did the YouTubes just sort of cut, like, they just decide to cut off
needs to
Canada?
be applied.
Right,
There's so much in between the lines reading that is just not taking place anymore. Like, there's so much just expecting everything to be spelt out and made extremely clear, because people don't really put in the effort to think about it, to read into it, and to look anywhere beneath the surface, which is terrible, because like art exists to make you think. Like, there is always stuff that you need to like look into. There's a lot of stuff that is implied, that is inferred, like in movies and TV shows and stuff.
Okay, I just want to do a big shout out to Jan Walter Sluka. Corpocracy shills. Yes, that's corpocracy shills. That might actually be a really good way of referring to it. Just basically people who run interference and cape for corporate government collusion, because that's really what it is now. It's in Canada, it's in the US, it's everywhere.
That can exist even in, like, if it's a wide shot, if it's a close-up, what colors people are wearing, where they are, etc. And then like in books, there's a lot of stuff that's implied or like left unsaid, or there are important things that need to be like looked into and acknowledged, and people just kind of brush it off as unimportant and will not really take anything that is not given at face value. And this is a skill that is so important, and it's really upsetting to see that being lost. When this conversation does happen and come up, like, a lot of people refer back to this Tumblr post that blew up like 10 or so years ago. It's this author versus English teacher diagram, and it's what the author meant and versus what your English teacher meant. And for instance, the curtains were blue. What your English teacher thinks: the curtains represent his immense depression and his lack of will to carry on. What the author meant: the curtains were fucking blue. That led to so many people being like, yeah, English teachers do overread stuff. Sometimes the curtains are just fucking blue. There's no reason to look into deeper details of these decisions.
Yeah, but sometimes the curtains are fucking blue. Like, also, sometimes what you're seeing doesn't justify the interpretation you've created. I mean, I guess you could say that there's I'm guessing what she's going for is an anti-intellectualism that's opposing deconstruction. But again, what I think is I think this is probably ideal. Knowing this individual YouTuber as I do, I'm guessing that this has a real strain of certain people, or certain people's interpretations are wrong. I don't think it's just, oh, we need to think deeply about these things, they can have multiple meanings. I think that she thinks that there's one meaning, which is just as simple as saying there's no meaning, really, if you think about it. And that meaning is her meaning. Okay, let's keep going.
But it's like, when you're writing a book, you're telling a story and you only have so many words because, you know, you've got to keep your audience engaged, and you are like deliberately writing everything. Everything you are writing comes from somewhere in your brain. And if you are a good writer, all of those decisions do in fact mean something. Like, you are creating this world, you are telling the story, like everything is down to your own creation, and because you have such limited time and space, everything does mean something. Like, that is what happens when you are like reading a book, when you are watching a TV show, a movie, whatever. Like, there is meaning behind every decision. Like, everything has been thought through. There is a reason it is there. And because people started viewing media like this and refusing to look further into things unless it was like explicitly explained to them, more and more pieces of media are doing that. They are explaining everything as a lot more people start to expect it.
Yes, because you're getting rid of critical thinking in favor of very didactic interpretations of things. I mean, do you guys have anything to add to this, or are you're just along for the ride for now?
Just jump in.
Yeah, sure. Just jump in. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Just try not to step on each other's feet. I know that's really difficult because nobody knows when they're talking, but go ahead.
I would disagree with her assertion that everything is purposeful or meaningful. Sometimes writers do just put filler in for whatever reason.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes a pipe really is just a pipe.
Yes, definitely. Oh yeah, let's continue.
Double reference. But yes, I disagree with. I agree with what Doughboy said, and I disagree with what the unicorn puke with an opinion said.
Oh man!
I mean, there are instances. The problem is sometimes that's true. No, we've been criticizing her parents this whole time. It's fine.
Okay,
And
no. That's it's good. That's good. That's fine. I don't have any problem with it. I was like, oh, that's good. Unicorn puke with an opinion. Tell him Nar wins the stream. Okay, let's all pack up, guys. There's nothing's gonna top that. All right, no, continue. Sorry. Oh.
Okay. Yes, I was going to say there are works of art that are pretty much what she describes them as, and one of the great examples of this is like paintings in the Renaissance. A lot of the more famous portraits, they have tons of stuff in them where if you weren't like an upper class Venetian or Milanese person who possibly like followed politics and theology and all this other stuff, like you would just not know that, oh, the fact that you got this fabric of that color is you showing off your wealth, you shouldn't be doing that because you're supposed to be pious and modest and humble and stuff like that. So it's actually teasing you, but while making you look good, so maybe you think you're not being teased. Like there are all kinds of double and triple meanings and entendres to all sorts of little details in those types of works of art. Except the other problem is those only work for people who are either were of that time, that place, or the people who have now spent a long time learning about that stuff, or picked up a book that says, what on earth does all this stuff mean in this painting? So sometimes it's true. And the part of the situation we're facing today is the death of shared culture, because you can have two people who grow up, or maybe don't grow up, but who live within 50 feet of each other. Like I do in a city, there are people who live within 50 feet of me who can come from a completely different country, and they don't necessarily understand the same cultural things that I understand. Like you can put something in that to a movie or a book or a painting or what have you that is a reference to something or that has a specific meaning in some place, and I will understand it and they won't, or vice versa. So that's just going to, that's part of the just an aspect of our time. Just we can't have in-depth context a lot of the time unless you wind up in a very specific niche of society.
Yeah. There's a lot of context that's no longer shared, which is sort of frightening in a way. All right, let's see some more about this Technicolor explosion.
And that validates not looking any deeper, so people are less inclined to do it, and they're getting less skilled in it as media starts doing it more and more. And so it's just kind of a losing battle, because people are not developing this skill anymore because they just don't see the point in doing it. And because of it, the media has to change to accommodate, because people just are not understanding. I personally am on book Twitter. I read a lot of books. I love being in fandom spaces on social media. I have been in them for the past 11 or so years now. And I enjoy dedicating my time to things that I love. And so I am on book Twitter. More specifically, I'm on All for the Game Twitter. So all the conversation I see revolves heavily around specifically that book series. And there is a lot, there's a lot of lack of media comprehension there, and it is infuriating. It's so frustrating. So I'm gonna give just
book talk, which is pretty much dominated by women. I was actually thinking about this when I was originally looking at the heading of this particular video. So, media literacy, the death of media literacy, which is interesting because right now we're dealing with a complete dominance of media and a lot of where media is consumed. So book talk has become huge for the consumption of media, presenting the consumption of media, talking about it, and it's no longer coffee shops where people have book clubs. It's now book talk. And this is also completely dominated by girls and women. So is she saying, if she's saying that the death of media literacy is recent, is it because in not just books, but also fan stuff has become dominated by women? So conventions, and not just dominated by women, but the women are the ones basically becoming gatekeepers of what happens and what's said in these areas. And she's saying that the death of media literacy, it sounds like it's recent. Is she making a connection between female dominance and the death of media literacy? She's saying that it's better in the past? She's saying book talk is killing it? Or the conversations that women are having on book talk are killing media literacy? I mean, does she think?
Reactionary.
Yeah, does she think about what she's implying here? Oh, I'm just putting it out there. If things are getting shittier, they're also getting more female. So, something to consider. I have to try to get things working again. The voles are revolting. The Canadian internet voles, the little voles that send the packets down the tubes in the Canadian rural internet, they've decided that they don't want to do this anymore. That they're overburdened. They're on strike. They want more money. But there is no money because our entire country is going bankrupt. Okay, let's keep going.
It's like a brief sort of discussion about it because I've blocked people, so I don't have any examples to bring to the table because I don't have them screenshot. But effectively, right, these books revolve around trauma. They revolve around healing from trauma, dealing with trauma, running from trauma, etc., etc., etc. One of the characters in particular is like hated by a lot of people. Like, a lot of people call him an asshole. They call him mean for no reason. They don't give him like any lenience at all, despite the fact that his character, like, he literally grew up in a cult where he was being abused from the age of like 8 until he escaped after they broke his hand when he was 19. And like, so he's, you know, a bit harsh. He's a bit stern and like closed off. And people are like, he has no reason to be like that. He's being an asshole. It's like, he's really, firstly, not. And also, I think he deserves to be meaner.
That's interesting. Oh, man. Oh, okay. No, I didn't screw up. Okay. No, that's interesting. Do you apply that to men in general, or just this one dude that probably gives you the hots? Is she a lesbian? Oh, that doesn't matter. Okay. Any thoughts on this?
Oh man, that doesn't matter. That's either potentially a very base take there, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, well, they're all about trauma. They're all about trauma. I mean, I think that's an extremely feminine thing to be very concerned with. Oh man, something bad happened to you when you were a kid, and now you just have to emotionally deal with that while living probably a pretty normal life. I haven't read this book. I have no idea what it is, but there is a lot of that sort of thing in women's writing. It was like, it goes back a while. I remember there's this book written by V.C. Andrews, whose title I've forgotten. It's like the Curious Garden. I have no idea. Children of something. You know what? I'm not even going to bother trying to remember the title.
The Sacred Garden?
Oh, that might be it. And yeah, it's a bunch of kids who just have horrible abuse happen to them all the time. And there seems to be a recurring theme. Like, you've got the adventures of Lemony Snicket, or whatever the hell it is. that
series of unfortunate events that I'm missing.
yeah, series of unfortunate. I'm having trouble with my titles today, so thank you, Billy. The kids are growing up in this horrible environment and having all kinds of bad things happen. Harry Potter, very famous current example. His parents are killed, and then he has to grow up with his abusive aunt and uncle. Spoilers for the first 10 pages of that book, I guess. And this seems to be a recurring theme, particularly for female written literature, because I'm pretty sure all three of those were written by women. I know two of them are. I don't remember the Lemony Snicket author.
He was a man.
Oh, that was a man. Okay, well, every rule has its exception, but that was popular, and I bet it was more popular with girls than boys. Because if you look at male literature with young children in it, I'm not going to say that never happens, but usually, if there is a difficult life, it's because they're poor in some way, or they're in a bad situation in some other way, but the family is usually at least okay. You don't have really bad stuff, so the young man, the growing boy, has to grow up and get through danger or things like that, but is generally a pretty well-adjusted and very often sometimes a little unrealistically mature adult person who is better at handling himself and taking responsibility and facing danger than almost anyone his age. But it seems like a very different and more approach that caters more to female tastes at the very least.
Okay, let's.
Kind of thesis
No, I would agree. I just heard from Art for Z that there's a terrible echo going on, so this is a little bit concerning. However,
is it when I speak?
I don't know. He hasn't given any specifics, so I couldn't tell you. If you could give us some specifics, then we can go forward and maybe try some attempt at dealing with these technical difficulties. Doing some... Oh, god damn. My brain isn't working. Doing... what do you do when you debug? Troubleshooting. Yes, thank you, Telener. Thank you for giving me the words. Yes, we could try some troubleshooting. Let's see. Actually, both guests are echoing. All right, so let me see what we can do here.
Well, let's try to, Doughboy and I, mute ourselves when we're not speaking, perhaps.
When Tolkien, actually both guests. So I think what's going on is I got a double audio capture. Let's see if that works to get rid of that. And how long has the echo been going on, Art for Z? Just give me an indication, but we'll listen to a little bit more of Rainbow Sprite.
And it's this thing of he doesn't talk about his trauma. He doesn't disclose it. You were given very little information about what he himself has been through, but a lot of it is implied. You're able to pick up a lot of what he's gone through because they do talk about it in a general sense a lot. And people just refuse to give him empathy because he himself doesn't sit there and disclose everything he's been through. You shouldn't have to be...
Okay, so when Tolkien is talking, okay, so hopefully that fixed it. Tell me if it did. I can't help the feature video sticking because as I said, the rural Canadian internet voles are striking for more pay. They're refusing to move the packets. They want everybody to pony up more money. $35 an hour is not good enough for them. So they're just letting the packets pile up in the back room and they're refusing to move them. So I can't really do anything about that unless you want to help us spend more money on the Canadian internet voles. All right, let's see if we can continue. Unless you guys had anything to add to that. It's funny that she's standing up for stoicism though here. You know, this guy must be really hot. There's something about this particular character must really trigger the amygdala of this woman. All right.
Be told. You shouldn't have to be told that this character who you know has been abused his whole life and grown up in a cult is struggling and needs space and time to heal. You should be able to understand why he is acting the way he is without having his entire abuse story spelled out piece by piece by piece to you. But I could...
Also, you're right. does being abused really excuse being an asshole? Right, I think you can actually judge people for being abusive even if they have been abused. I mean, maybe you can understand it, but if they're not doing... And the other thing is that she's saying that not talking about the abuse is justification for why he continues to be the way he is, and yet her own ideology, and yes, this is a feminist, would say that that is toxic masculinity. Could you be consistent here? Okay, and she's going to bat for this guy. Okay. I guess consistency is too much to ask.
Sit here and talk about Kevin Day all day. I could do that. I actually, after this, am filming a video about all the books that I read over winter that I'm going to be uploading on my second channel, and I did do a big reread of this series. So if you want to hear a few of my thoughts about it, go check that out on Kiwi. Spelled with a Q. Q-I-W-A. Now that I've gotten the rant about my heart and where I see it out of the way, let's move on to some actual examples that I have found on Twitter and have actual proof of happening. And while I have your attention, I would also love to ask if you could please hit subscribe. Over 50% of you are regular viewers but are not subscribed. It genuinely helps out so much. If you just hit subscribe, you are doing me a massive solid, and you are really helping my channel and enabling me to keep doing this. And then also, while you're down there, if you leave a like and comment your thoughts, leave your thoughts on media literacy and your favorite books and any misunderstandings you see taking place around media that you love, because I'd be really interested. It's such an interesting conversation. I would love to have it with you. Anyway, yeah, now that that is out of the way, let's carry on to some examples.
Go ahead.
Has anybody here ever heard of the Arabic corpus called the 1001 Nights?
Yes.
A friend of mine told me something about it.
Yes. So that series of stories embedded in a frame narrative. The frame narrative actually features 2 male rape victims, but you'd be surprised how many scholars have written entire books or articles on it and never recognized that. One of the most damning ones is actually, I think it's called the Arabian Nights Reader, the Arabian Nights Encyclopedia, published in 2004. It actually has an article on the character and doesn't mention that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Specifically the character named King Shahryar and his brother King Shahzaman.
Okay. That's well, it's also, I mean, that's similar to what happened with The Handmaid's Tale. Talk about media literacy on the part of the author of The Handmaid's Tale, whose name is escaping me, and it really shouldn't be escaping me right now. I think Margaret Atwood.
Are you not proud of our great Canadian lady of letters?
Margaret Atwood, that's some serious media literacy, because if you actually read the story of what she based it on, Jacob is a victim of spousal rape. He's a victim of spousal prostitution, forced spousal prostitution, just rape, period. Because he had to marry under false pretenses, so I don't even think you can call it spousal rape. He was just raped, so it's a lot of actual unpleasant sexual exploitation of a man. And Margaret Atwood read that and said, "I see an entire society victimizing women sexually from this." It was pretty funny. I guess you could call that media literacy. Is the echo better? Oh, it's fixed now. Good. All right. The echo is better. Yes, the stream is not dead. We're still going. I can't. The Vols want more money, guys. And I am not in control of that. But if you do want to send us a message, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's something I'm in control of. So if you are interested in talking about anything that we're talking about here, you want us to comment on it, just send a message there. All right, let's do a bit more.
examples that I encountered on Twitter. Recently, there was this one tweet that blew up. It has like 230k likes now. I was seeing it multiple times a day for a few days on my book Twitter account. It really needs a bit of a discussion, and that is this tweet about this book called Tampa. So the tweet reads, "Never did a double take as hard as I did reading the back of this book. Like, what do you mean?" And the book is called, and the cover of it is like pale pink fabric with like a buttonhole, and it's made to look like a vagina, and it's like really, really eerie. And then the back reads, "Celeste Price is 26 years old, beautiful, smart, married to a handsome man with money, and starting a new job as a junior high school teacher in suburban Tampa. Yet she harbors a dark secret. She is driven by singular sexual obsession, 14-year-old boys. As the school year begins, Celeste has chosen and seduced the naive Jack Patrick, a quiet, thoughtful boy in awe of his teacher. But when her lustful frenzy begins to spiral out of control, the insatiable Celeste bypasses each hurdle with swift thinking and shameless determination."
Was this the one that you read, Telemark? Or no, so Doughboy, the book? Or that you were thinking of reading about the sexual abuse of boys? Tampa?
I don't believe that was the title of it.
Okay. So this is another one. Okay, let's see what she means by media literacy in what sounds like the sensationalization of sexual abuse of boys.
From
Exploitation of sexual abuse of boys, actually.
reading that and looking at the cover, I very, very much understand that this book is going to be disturbing. Nowhere in this is it romanticizing the idea.
Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, you lack media literacy. Let's see. Let's take a look. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to do a reverse-aroo. That is, I'm going to reverse the sexes for this. All right, what's a good Celeste? Male name that's like Celeste. Cecil?
Yeah, sorry.
Clark. I'll just go with Clark. Clark Price is a 26-year-old handsome, smart, married to a beautiful woman with money and starting a new job as a junior high school teacher in suburban Tampa. Yet he harbors a dark secret. Ooh. He is driven by a singular sexual obsession, 14-year-old girls. As the school year begins, Clark has chosen and seduced the naive Jill Patrick, a quiet, thoughtful girl, in awe of her teacher. But when his lustful frenzy begins to spiral out of control, the insatiable Clark bypasses each hurdle with swift thinking and shameless determination. Does that feel a little wrong?
Wrong.
Yeah, it's a lot of wrong.
I believe it's written shamelessly.
Yes, there's a lot of wrong in that summary. When you just do the switcheroo, the male for female, there's a hell of a lot more. It doesn't feel very good to write. I don't think that Lolita in such breathless terms. And yes, that is sensationalized. That is very much sensationalized. And written for...
What is the title of this book?
Tampa. Okay, but here, let's listen to her again.
Tampa.
Teacher. But when her lustful frenzy begins to spiral out of control, the insatiable Celeste bypasses each...
Go ahead. The book I was thinking of, Doughboy. The book I was thinking of.
I was going to say, the book you were thinking of earlier was called Any Man by Amber Tamblyn.
Okay, so now we're starting to see a genre of sexual exploitation of underage boys. Yay! And of course, nobody actually calls it out. That blurb, if you just reverse the genders, that would never be published. Certainly not in the way it was. I mean, who is responsible for this? Like, seriously, who is responsible for that? Who did that?
Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita?
No, I mean, but that story doesn't present Nabokov in these kinds of terms, does it?
I've not actually read the book, but I do know that it is about that sort of inappropriate relationship between a grown man and a young girl, but
Lolita.
I can't say much more than that.
Lolita blurb. Okay, so Lolita is the story of a hyper-civilized European colliding with the cheerful barbarism of post-what? Okay. I just want to see the freaking blurb for Lolita so that we can compare. And this is something else. Let me see if I can find it on Amazon. I don't recall that this being presented in such a breathless way. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I think I've read it. Okay, let's see. Sorry, my internet is really slogging today, guys, so it's going to take a while to make this work. Maybe never. Maybe everybody in my town just all piled on the internet all at once. Actually, you know what? Telenar, could you find a blurb on Lolita while we continue? Because I'm not going to be able to do this. It's just, it is...
Just a moment.
Yeah, thank you. I should have done that from the start.
Channel with swift thinking and shameless determination. From reading that and looking at the cover, I very, very much understand that this book is going to be disturbing. No, friend. There doesn't seem to be an indication of that.
I think that you're incorrect when you say that this book is going to be what about the blurb? Well, it is going to be disturbing, of course, if you give a crap about boys and the sexual exploitation of boys by adult women. But what about that blurb and that cover says that the author intends it to be disturbing and not titillating? Doughboy, could you answer that question while Telenar tries to figure it out? Do you see anything? I mean, it seems like it's sort of a cutesy way of sensationalizing women's genitals. Like, could you imagine a book like Clark in his lustful frenzy for Jill, the 14-year-old girl he's seduced in his lustful frenzy, and he's evading the authorities to, I guess, continue to abuse her. And then we have a cutesy little crocheted penis on the cover of Tampa, genders reversed. I mean, I don't know, that doesn't speak horrifying to me. Maybe a bit of like black and white or black and white and red silhouetted cutouts. I don't know.
Where in this is it romanticizing the idea? I'm reading the
lustful frenzy. It's romanticizing it because it's firmly from the point of view of the abuser. And it also seems like it's tonally comedic, which is even more disturbing. Does anyone get that sense? Like it's tonally comedic?
Unquote Celeste as bypassing hurdles with swift thinking and shameless determination. So the heroine is praised for bypassing the hurdles society has placed in the way of her having these sorts of interactions with a 14-year-old who is in her care. So yeah, there are some quotes about some reviews of Lolita in the Discord in the writers' retreat.
Okay.
Would you like me to read them aloud?
You go ahead and read them.
Right. So the Atlantic Monthly says Lolita blazes with a perversity of the most original kind, for Mr. Nabokov has distilled from his shocking material 100-proof intellectual farce. Lolita seems an assertion of the power of the comic spirit to wrest delight and truth from the most outlandish materials. So they're describing it as perversity, it's shocking, it's outlandish. It is one of the funniest serious novels I've ever read, and the vision of its abominable hero, okay, I never described as abominable than the other one, who never deludes or excuses himself, brings into grotesque relief the cant, the vulgarity, and the hypocritical conventions that pervade the human comedy. So there's a lot of negative stuff in there, or at least negative with regards to the moral quality of the hero or the protagonist of Lolita. Let's not say hero. Or the New Yorker wrote, the conjunction of a sense of humor with a sense of horror results in satire of a very special kind, in which vice or folly is regarded not so much with scorn as with profound dismay and a measure of tragic sympathy. The reciprocal flow of irony gives to both the characters and their surroundings a peculiar intensity and folly, and you should view it not this time not with scorn but with dismay and tragic sympathy. So, all right. And there's also the blurb on the back of the book, which is Anita Nabokov's most famous and controversial novel, which tells the story of the aging Humbert's obsessive, devouring, and doomed passion for the nymphette Dolores Hayes. Lolita is also the story of a hyper-civilized European colliding with the cheerful barbarism of post-war America. Wow. Okay, apparently America in the late 40s, early 50s was barbaric. Well, what do they think barbarism is?
Yeah, considering what Europe was doing like a decade before.
Anyway, most of all...
Considering what Europe was doing like a decade before.
Anyway, most of all, it is a meditation. Yeah. It is a meditation on love. Love is outrage and hallucination, madness and transformation. Okay, well, it's still making it less cutesy than Tampa. So, but yeah, cheerful barbarism. I mean, yeah, barbarism is when you're slaughtering millions of people across a continent and leveling entire cities with air power.
Yeah, that's like, what was Europe doing like like a decade before that? Ugh. Okay, let's I'm trying to find
I'm sure they'd be calling that barbarism too though. But at that point the word is just stretched out of all recognition.
All right.
Why is it barbarism? Are they just going around killing people whenever they feel like it?
Yeah, for some reason the stream keeps buffering. It might just be my channel. Maybe it's like super censored. All right, let's keep going.
And immediately being like, oh, it's a horror. It's a thriller. It's a horror. Like that is.
No, you're really stretching. You're saying, okay, so essentially the thesis here is that this book, which is about a woman who seduces a 14-year-old boy with a very cutesy pink pastel cover with a symbol of a vagina, and it's looking like and sweet, not disturbing and disgusting, right? And then also talking about her lustful frenzy. Nothing is from the point of view of the boy. I don't know. I don't remember if Lolita was. I'm not sure if Lolita was a really good example, but I'm pretty sure that Humperdinck was not considered to be in any way. And everything is from the point of view of the woman, and it's talking about her a praiseworthy way of oh yeah, something's going on with OBS. Sorry guys. Good luck. Try to keep with it. We'll just get through this and figure it out. That this praiseworthy like that she's evading all these obstacles in order to fulfill her deep desire for this boy. And it's a little bit, it does not come across as being a horror. Yeah, let's put it that way. It just does not come across as being a horror. Okay, let's keep going.
The genre. And it is, if you can't infer that by reading the blurb, which you should be able to do, then you very easily can check the genre, which is horror thriller. But so many people were just not understanding this or picking up this vibe from the combination of the very eerie cover art as well as that description. Like, people just did not gather that. And you see tweets that read, and
okay, it's buffering again.
You don't have burnout.
Sorry, guys. Oh, no, wait, it's just an ad. I'll just quiet this and then it'll go to me. I don't know. So she's basically saying that she's not media literate because she didn't pick up on... she didn't even pick up on this being a little bit unsettling. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but you you're basically saying it's media literacy for people to be concerned about a book in which a woman is being described as being predatory, sexually predatory towards a 14-year-old boy, and the book has a cutesy cover with like a buttonhole in the, like a vagina, buttonhole vagina. How do you even describe that? And that blurb, I mean, okay, let's look at it a different way. Let's look at the blurb in a different way. Okay? Let's look at this. Okay, Celeste Price is a 26-year-old, beautiful, smart, married to a handsome man with money, and starting a new job as a junior high school teacher in a suburb of Tampa. Yet she harbors a dark secret. She is driven by a singular passion to save cattle or cows from being slaughtered. As the school year begins, Celeste has chosen to save the cows of, I don't know, Farmer Patrick, and a quiet, thoughtful farmer. I don't know. But when her frenzy to save cows from slaughter begins to spiral out of control, the insatiable Celeste, or the morally outraged Celeste, bypasses each hurdle with swift thinking and shameless determination to steal all of Patrick's cows and save them from slaughter. Do you see how that doesn't change? Like, if you just switch out something else that's just a little bit, she's doing something that might be ethically questionable. She's like stealing a farmer's cows, but it might be morally questionable, ethically, who knows. If you're really into veganism and you think that you're saving an actual sentient species from being killed, but you see how that doesn't change anything. Like, there's nothing in this, just removing the subject, there's nothing in this that the words themselves and how they're describing what she's doing makes it seem like a horror or that it's beyond the pale. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, Celeste Price is a 26-year-old con artist who's going to cheat some rich Cruella de Vil out of her millions. And then with swift thinking and shameless determination, that kind of... Do you get what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I think it's a good comparison.
Yeah.
An activist who is possibly circumventing some rules, but for a higher moral purpose. And I mean, that happens very commonly in romance. It's like, oh, it's a forbidden romance.
Mm-hmm.
He was a tall, handsome, wealthy prince who was set to marry this princess with lots of, huge tracts of land or whatever. And she was a ordinary peasant girl with no discernible personality who was kind of vaguely not ugly, so she could be a self-insert for the female readership. And suddenly he was incredibly enamored of her and wanted nothing more than to love her eternally and give her all the presents he could, even when she was totally irrational or boring or crabby or whatever. And it just made him more attracted to her somehow magically. And then in the end, he winds up, marrying her, and then also raping her at the same time because it's all about the stimulation. It's not about the making sense.
Yeah, but you could use this, the way this is described, towards anything, like something that's morally questionable, but maybe makes sense in terms of a person's individual ethics. This is not something that's being presented in a negative way. I'm sorry, it isn't. So the people who are saying, yeah, this seems a little bit fucked up, are right. And she is actually lacking media literacy. And she's lacking media literacy because she thinks that what she likes and what she's willing to defend is equal to understanding texts. Like, understanding what authors are actually trying to say. All right, let's get back.
It's a horror. It's a thriller. It's a horror. Like, that is the genre. And it is, if you can't infer that by reading the blurb, which you should be able to do, then you very easily can check the genre, which is horror thriller. But so many people were just not understanding this or picking up this vibe from the combination of the very eerie as that description. Like, people just did not gather that.
That cover art was not eerie. Where the hell is she getting that from? Did anyone else find this cover art eerie? That's crazy.
And you see tweets that read, anyone who reads this is self-reporting. How is this not illegal?
Once you know what the book's about, then yes, but by itself.
Yeah, but by itself, it's not. If you have to apply the actual subject matter in order to interpret it, like that's not about media literacy, is it?
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing about how this is packaged.
Once upon a time, feminists made crocheted hats that also looked like vaginas. We just wore them to a protest.
Yeah, exactly. Was that intended to be like?
Okay. So that was, yeah, and that was not horrifying. I mean, it kind of was, because it was an army of people with really weird looking genitals attached to their heads, and we're supposed to take them seriously. But, you know, on the other hand, like, clearly that's not how they intended it at all. So
Yeah.
what media literacy do you need for that to be anything other than normal?
Sorry guys, like we're really struggling to keep this stream going. I assume that at the end it'll be easy to watch. It's just difficult to watch it in the moment. Good lord. Like I said, the voles are on strike. I'm gonna have to seriously upgrade the internet at the Badger Cave, which will be interesting because I don't know what the hell I'm gonna upgrade it to. Okay, let's keep going.
Fuck, check that woman's hard drive. I hate how media like this is considered sensational as opposed to predatory when the victim is male. I don't know, it doesn't sit right. Looking at the cover, I thought it might be about her getting raped because that cover would be so powerful in that context. But no, BookTok people are fantasizing about pedophilia. And like, these make me want to slam my head into the wall. Like, oh my god. It's so incredibly obvious that this is not a romance.
No.
Like, there's no...
It's not incredibly obvious. All right, without knowing the topic of this book, would you know that this is a condemnation of a woman engaging in like, if you weren't reading the expectation to condemn this activity, which isn't really that consistently condemned, would you know that this is condemning? Like, if you substituted any other activity with the same words, you would not see any condemnation. You would see sensationalism, sensationalizing this woman and her evading the law in order to pursue her own idiosyncratic ethics, right? And that cover does not speak. It actually looks more like it's trivializing it to me. All right, go ahead. Tell him, Nar.
I was going to say, if you just change the boy's age to 18, and so she's still 26 and he's 18. At that point, well, that makes it sound completely different. It makes it a very different situation. Like, she could be a young university, like an adjunct professor or something. And it just becomes a completely different story. And I feel, you know, way less uncomfortable about reading it. And I'm sure none of these people on Twitter would be saying, oh, this is clearly pedophilia. It would just be like, if she's a professor and he's a teacher, like, that sort of, you know, yes, you're not supposed to do that with your students as a teacher, but it's sort of it would be one of those forbidden romances, which is kind of naughty. But, you know, I think we can all agree that 18 and 14 are very different ages, and one is much closer to 26 than the other. So it would be a depiction of something that's arguably, like, ethically and morally still wrong, but it's a very different sort of level of wrongness from him being 14. And so and I just feel extremely confident that the Twitter commentaries, the TikTokers, whoever would would be way more okay with it. It would have gotten a lot less attention probably, but that would be, it's the age thing, and it's written to be salacious, and there is no description. If you look at the blurbs on the rear of the book, not just the one describing the plot, but the reviews, like they say, like San Francisco Chronicle says, it takes a long, unflinching look. Well, it does say a deeply disturbed mind, but also more significantly, society's often troubling relationship with female beauty, apparently, or a juicy riffs on consumer culture and its twin obsessions, youth and beauty. Well, is consumer culture to blame for 26-year-olds who try to sleep with 14-year-olds? I mean, I'll give the San Francisco Chronicle this. They do say deeply disturbed mind, but
that's not in relation to the blurb.
The rest of it,
go ahead,
doesn't give you the rest of it doesn't really give you the impression that she's some kind of awful person.
This woman is an idiot.
And I'm sure the people who write these things are all, at least in principle, feminists.
This woman is an idiot. Like, yes, that blurb, there's no nice that blurb does sensationalize it. It does make it titillating. It does talk about it as some, ooh, she's being a little bit naughty, like that kind of thing. That blurb does not, there's no condemnation in that blurb.
It absolutely makes it come across as romance, yeah.
Yes, it absolutely makes it come across as a romance, or at least that the idea that what she's doing is more in the realm of just being frowned upon or naughty, rather than a disgusting violation of another human being. Sorry, they're right. You're wrong. And you're wrong that there's no condemnation in that blurb, and there's no condemnation in that cover. Right? Whether or not the individual was going for shocking is, maybe they were trying for a shocking juxtaposition of a cutesy cover and a salacious blurb with a horrifying subject matter. Maybe they were going for that. Still using a description that is almost making this, well, not almost, it makes her sound like a hero. Right? And I guess what she's saying is they're trying to make a statement about how people see this as a positive thing. But let's see. Okay, go ahead, Doughboy. I want to see if that's actually what she's doing.
Perhaps we should compare by reading the blurb from a book that actually is more of a horror or thriller just for the sake of it.
Okay, sure. If you have such a blurb, let's do it. Do you have one?
1 second.
Okay, all right. Well, we can't leave that much space, so just tell me.
Now, would you mind reading this?
Did you got? Okay, all right. So we got one. Telenar, are you there?
Oh.
Hello? Okay, I think Telenar has gone AWOL. Yeah, I think Doughboy got you a blurb to read.
I'm here.
He's here.
Yeah. Did you want to read it, or I think it might be in the writer's chat, or?
Yeah, it's loading now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready?
Okay, sorry, I had to just take a moment to unmute myself, just trying to avoid the echoes. Anyway.
No,
so,
I got rid of the echo. You don't need to be
is...
unmuted. I got rid of the echo, so you're good.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. All right, so This Is Not a Test by Courtney Summers is described as follows. It's the end of the world. 6 students have taken cover in Cortege High, but shelter is little comfort when the dead outside won't stop pounding on the doors, and one bite is all it takes to kill a person and bring them back as a monstrous version of their former self. To Sloane Price, that doesn't sound so bad. 6 months ago, her world collapsed, and now seems like the perfect time to give up. As Sloane eagerly waits for the barricades to fall, she's forced to witness the apocalypse through the eyes of 5 people who actually want to live. But as the days crawl by, the motivations for survival change in startling ways, and soon the group's fate is determined less and less by what's happening outside, and more by the unpredictable and violent bids for life and death inside. When everything is gone, what do you hold on to? And that's the end.
Yeah, that's horror writing is about a fate worse than death, and if this was considered,
Also, it's
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, the very top review that gives it 5 stars says it's not a zombie book. It's just a zombie framing device to talk about communication and making yourself vulnerable and trauma. Okay, well, female author detected, I guess.
Yeah, well, but the point is that a horror goes with survival and then moves into a fate worse than death, right? Are we looking at this story in terms of a fate worse than death for the apparent protagonist, which is the woman who is abusing this boy? Because that's where the blurb seems to be going. Like, except that it's not even teasing at it. It's basically just saying that she's evading any kind of condemnation, any kind of situation where she's being held to account for her actions. Like, horror has a specific, like, thematic pursuit or, like, thematic focus. And that horror's focus is on life and death, but then it's also talking about a fate worse than death. And from that blurb, you don't get the fate worse than death that's supposed to be in horror. That would be if you let's say if you were going to put it in the blurb, I presume that the fate worse than death would be experienced by the victim of this pedophile, of this sexual abuser. Not pedophiles, I guess she's ebiphile or whatever. Of this sexual abuser. So what would be the fate worse than death for him? Okay? Like, what would that be? Is it really a horror if you're looking at it from the point of view of the monster? No, it becomes a comedy, really. And so right off the bat, this blurb isn't presenting a horror. It's not presenting the themes of a horror. That's what we talked about before. It's sort of soft pedaling the themes of a horror. But, aliens. That's a genuine horror, aliens. Because not only does it talk about life and death and survival, it also has a fate worse than death. You guys know what the fate worse than death and aliens is, right? Can you just, think about it? Tell me? You don't know? You can't think?
Well, it's possible Doughboy hasn't seen the movie.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say it's either infection and or rape.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or are we supposed to be a little more literal and say it's when the eggs are planted in you and then they hatch and then you gradually feel this horrible thing burst out of your chest and your last painful realization is that you become nothing more than a breeding nest for another alien, and then you die horribly.
Yeah, that you've become an infected thing and a danger to others. That you are carrying an infection that will ultimately kill your friends and family. Right? That's the fate worse than death. Are we being presented with that in the blurb? Is it anywhere in the blurb? This is not a horror blurb. It is not. I don't know if Doughboy's blurb was specifically a horror blurb, but this one certainly isn't. If you wanted a horror blurb, let me see. Let me think about how you would frame this. Let's see. Jack Patrick, I think was the name. Jack Patrick was raped when he was 14 by his teacher. Or no, he pursued what does the media usually term it? A affair with his teacher? Now, at the age of 32, he's finding himself increasingly drawn to women who can't say no. And he's struggling with those dark desires. Will he give in? Now that's a horror story. There you go, Kiwi. There's the horror story. He is Jack Patrick, who was raped when he was, and again, I don't want to give a false impression. Most boys who experience this do not go on to become abusers. We're talking about this in the context of horror. What's the horror here? That this boy, who has been damaged by this woman, later on, is now perpetuating the damage. There's the horror. Or we could just go into the horror of his life being destroyed by this. That's the horror. How is it horror focusing on the monster. Like, the monster is getting what she wants out of this. She's enjoying herself. And apparently she's evading any kind of consequence. Maybe she doesn't in the end. But then what happens? If you want to do the horror, if you want to do the horror, you have to focus on the victims. Or you have to present the monster as a victim somehow. As an unwitting victim. You know, this is not horror, and this blurb is not horror. It sounds more like a comedy heist, right? And that cover is not just absent the subject matter. And again, she may Queer Kiwi may pull this out of the trash by simply saying something like the author's juxtaposing the cutesy cover and the salacious blurb that's written in the style of a comedy heist. She's juxtaposing these two things with the horrible subject matter. Now, we would never do this if this was a male teacher preying on a 14-year-old girl. We would never present it in this way. Maybe the author thinks she's making a statement on how society doesn't treat this seriously. Or maybe she's just enjoying getting away with creating a bunch of fat material over the sexual exploitation of an underage boy. Let's see if Kiwi actually presents an argument to why it's media literacy to be offended by this.
Nice writing. There's nothing in that blurb.
Are you... Okay, right there. Yes, there's nice writing. They've taken something horrible and they've presented it as a comedy heist. Not horror. There's no horror in that blurb.
That makes it come across as a romance.
I think we already addressed this. Even before she said it, we addressed it. It does sound like a romance.
And even like one of the pulled quotes on the back references that it goes inside like a disturbing mind. You know, like there's...
Is that us making that sound with the mic or her? I have to assume it's her.
So much pointing to the fact that this is not a romantic book, that it is not looking at like a good thing. And especially when you look at that last tweet, right, of being like, the cover would have been powerful if it was about her getting raped.
Okay.
Is the point. She's just the rapist. Like,
yes, and you're presenting the instrument of her violence as cutesy. So, I mean, I don't agree with that tweet. I mean, we're in multiple nested layers of absolute bullshit here, but like...
Oh, do you want to hear something even better?
Sure.
That will definitely change your mind about the book being... so what I'm about to read is from the Wikipedia summary of the plot of the novel Tampa by this author, which is what we're talking about. And it is about to make Allison do a complete 180 on her position. She's about to be convinced that Celeste is a good girl who didn't do nothing wrong. So a year later, Celeste is given permission to move to a different town where she gets an under-the-table job at a cabana bar under a fake name. Despite extensive therapy, she continues to assault teenage boys whose families visit the beach. She thinks about Boyd and Jack, but cannot hide her disgust at the thought of them nearing adulthood. In order to stay aroused by their memory, she fantasizes that on the night Jack discovered her with Boyd, Boyd had died from his injuries and she managed to kill Jack before the police arrived.
This is Tampa? I thought it was the other one that Doughboy had found.
That's
Tampa. Because there's two of them.
The ending
now.
of Tampa.
There's two of them.
On Wikipedia.
Doughboy. What was the other one? Do you remember?
Any Man.
Any
by
Man.
Amber Tamblyn, I believe.
Didn't that also have a similar kind of grotesque thing going on? I think it
was from the perspective of a female rapist, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They were adult men. Oh God, I'm sorry, Neat Scholar. The buffering is just really freaking bad, and I don't know why.
In Kiwi's defense, there is at least one popular work of fiction that I know of that presents a male teacher essentially grooming an underage girl and presenting it as okay. It was the TV adaptation of Pretty Little Liars. The relationship between Arya and Ezra was presented as a sort of epic romance, despite the fact that he was a 20-something and she was like 14 when they met, and he'd already fucked her friend when she was even younger than that. The show apparently had no problems with this revelation.
Good lord.
For what it's worth, that series was, if I'm not mistaken, written and produced by a lesbian and a gay man, which may influence the bizarre writing.
Why is it so difficult not to sexualize children? Yeah, this has actually been noted.
The author might be a little dysfunctional. I just checked her bio, so apparently she's been divorced twice, has one daughter who is now 12, and has now come out as gay. That's how it's described here, not lesbian. So I think she might be a little messed up.
I'm sorry, were you talking about Marlene King?
No, Alyssa Nutting, the author of Tampa.
Okay, let's see what she has to say.
Like, it is still about rape.
Yes. They're talking not about the subject, but how it's packaged.
That's why it is the cover, because that is still the point. Like, how are you looking at this and understanding that the cover is really powerful for a rape story, and then being like, man, it's a bummer that it's not about rape? Just because...
Wasn't that what she said? She said it was not about the rape of the woman. Like, I'm not sure if I completely agree, but there's a functional difference there. Like, if you're presenting a rape of a woman, well, she gets to say it and doesn't get demonetized, goddamn. But, or not, like, not even demonetized, like, flicked off of YouTube like a booger. But you can have a different color. You can say this is inappropriate for the rape of a man versus the rape of a woman. So I'm not sure I understand where Kiwi is going here.
Because she's the rapist doesn't mean that it's not. Like, how are you reading the back of this book and not inferring that? And that comment in, like, regards to the previous one of, like, how it's sensationalized when, you know, the victim is a male instead of a female. Like, I just love those back to back of one person kind of being like, men can't be victims. Only women can be victims, so obviously it's not about rape. And then the next person being like, I can't believe that, like, they're pretending that women can't be rapists. Like, you're both wrong. How did you both miss the mark in such different ways? There was a...
Because they're two different people.
Points to her for recognizing the fact that women can be rapists. That's nice.
Well, it's the bare minimum, though. Like, that literally, that genuinely is the bare minimum.
Great tweet in response to this that said,
True.
a lot of y'all need to stop self-inserting yourself into these books because you're preventing yourself from adequately understanding the material. And this is so true. Like, so many people look at books and just, you know, expect that the main character is going to be a good person. That is how a story goes, and that if the main character is not a good person, then the person who wrote the book is not a good person. Like, they are writing the book from their own perspective and with their own thoughts and their own morals. Like, that is not how it works. You are not reading this book as though you are the one committing these actions. It is not validating this behavior. You are meant to be reading this and feeling disturbed. You're meant to be like, oh my God, this is so incredibly fucked up. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. It's meant to make you feel icky.
Yeah. What? Okay, no. I'm not convinced that this author is really condemning this.
Like, that is the point. The intention is to bring to light how fucked up it is. It's to bring to light, like, how easy it is to manipulate people and like what it looks like from the other perspective of being a predator. Like there are positives to these things as well. I think that there's such an interesting thing about psychology, and people are so fascinated in psychology. It's like why we listen to true crime stuff and we watch documentaries and things. And those aren't because they make us feel good and because we agree with the actions of a criminal. It's just fascinating. The human mind is fascinating. You're not meant to agree with her. You're meant to be uncomfortable.
Okay, now we're talking about two different things. The choice of subject matter and the choice of how the subject matter is packaged. The subject matter is not packaged like a horror or even a crime drama or like true crime. It is packaged like a comedic heist, right? And the cover is cutesy.
I guess that could be an issue. I guess it could be an issue of the publishers and not the author herself. If she didn't come up with the blurb for herself, she probably didn't come up with the cover art.
Yeah. That's true. Although she might have had more input into it, but still, somebody made the choice somewhere down the line to package it in this way, and it is not packaged as horror. It's not packaged as a crime thriller, or true crime. It's not, and the cover is cutesy, not horrifying. So they're right.
And how much influence does the author have on the blurb on the back?
She probably wrote it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
or somebody helped her write it.
If that's the case.
But again, it doesn't matter because this is how it's being packaged, and they're talking about how it's being packaged. And they're saying that it's being packaged in a way that's unpleasant. And again, she's saying that one woman who said, well, this could have been much more powerful if she was the one who was raped. Maybe the cutesy instrument of rape, if it was actually the cutesy thing that was being violated, would have worked better. If because there's a difference there, and she didn't even recognize that there is a difference. Cutesy crocheted penis versus cutesy felt or fabric vagina, right? Imagine these two things. Cutesy crocheted penis on a story about a male rapist. Cutesy crocheted vagina on a story about a female rapist. Versus cutesy crocheted vagina on a story about a female rape victim versus cutesy crocheted penis on a story about a male rape victim. You see, these are four different things. And she's saying that woman, because she is not recognizing that this boy was raped, because she said it would be a more powerful cover on a completely different story about the rape of a woman. But you see, these are different things, right? And she's not recognizing that. Am I explaining this in a way that makes sense? I don't know. Anyway, I think that...
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
You aren't meant to view it as though like you are her and committing these actions, but you are meant to view it through your own moral compass in order to understand the complexities and depravities of...
No, it is inviting you to view her as the protagonist. That's why her goals are the scene goal, at least in the blurb, and her obstacles are her obstacles. Like, literally, the blurb is presenting the scene goal as continue to rape a boy and the obstacles as everybody who's trying to stop you. So you are actually being invited to ride along with a rapist. That's what the blurb suggests. Because, again, the story is about a protagonist, which doesn't have to mean that they're a good person, but the protagonist is pursuing a goal and experiencing obstacles. So, yeah, it is 100% inviting you to ride along in the head of a rapist.
These actions, but you are not meant to be rooting for this character. This brings me to my next example that I encountered, which is about BoJack Horseman.
Okay, I don't care. All right. Shall we go to the second subject? Men's only publishing? Because I'm...
Sure. Also, based on a quick review of the Wikipedia article summarizing the plot of the Tampa, she is 100% the protagonist, undeniably. So, yeah. And I mean, based on the blurb, she's the protagonist. So, the Death of Media Literacy is a movie posted by someone who, if I understand this correctly, I was kind of not listening to the Queer Kiwi because she's annoying. And apparently this was posted by someone who's so media illiterate she cannot tell who the protagonist is based on the blurb of the book, which is about the protagonist almost entirely.
I wonder if the book would have been less objectionable if it had been like, oh my god, who was that teenage boy who was molested and then the woman came back after him for child support? Like, if it had been a story like that, I could totally get behind it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever tell those kinds of stories. Because I actually just got into a Twitter fight over feminist. I tweeted, there was recently a boy who died in the UK who committed suicide as a result of being bullied by several girls. And I tweeted, this is a much more likely scenario than what the nonsense in adolescence. And a feminist swanned out of nowhere and said, how dare you make a gotcha against feminism. You're using this dead boy to make a gotcha against feminism. Like, I didn't even mention feminism. But regardless, yeah, it is feminist propaganda. And it is contributing to the problem of boys' suicide. There's no way it isn't. Okay? And she just got infuriated over it. And so she made feminism the victim of me pointing out that a boy being bullied into suicide is more common than a boy stabbing a girl, especially in the particular family structure that he was in. You know, not just setting aside the ethnicity, because a lot of that got really heated. This is a boy with 2 parents and a decent relationship with his father. This is not the type of boy who goes out and stabs someone. Okay, it's just pure, unadulterated feminist agitprop. And she got really upset and she was going and caping for feminism. Oh, you're hurting the feminism. Anyway, where was I going with this? I don't even remember anymore.
In the UK has announced it will only be for male authors. The internet's response was subdued and proportionate. The domination of female authors, agents, and publishers has limited the opportunities for new male writers, said the founder of Conduit Books, Jude Cook. He said they will seek to publish a range of overlooked issues, including fatherhood, masculinity, working-class male experience, sex and relationships, and negotiating the 21st century as a man. People bristled, they pissed their pants, they got their knickers in a twist, and went all of a dither.
New indie press Conduit Books is launching with initial focus on male authors because, thank God, there are no industries where men are ahead. It is all about women everywhere. And Jesus Christ, like, are we for real here? It is.
Author of lightweight genre fiction, Gabino Iglesias tweeted,
Yes. So now that the industry is completely, well, also it's dying. Did you guys know that? Like, even women are no longer reading. Women have dominated publishing, and they're killing it. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I believe women are still reading more novels than men, but overall, yeah. Well, a lot of what we're looking at is the dying of the publishing industry. A lot of it is being eaten by manga and things like that too for younger people, or they're spending all their time on TikTok, of course. Similar things.
This isn't even the first time that somebody has noticed something like this. It was back in 2018, an author named David Keynes responded to a literary agent saying that men couldn't write women. And in his response, he included a hashtag called misandry in publishing. and he got run over the coals for suggesting that.
Yep. Well, apparently
He
enough.
got strongly criticized by feminists for saying men wouldn't be able to write women.
No, he got strongly criticized for accusing the publishing industry of having misandry in it.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess he took flack for being over the target, as the expression sort of goes.
All right, let's play some more.
When will someone think of the men? Haha. Love that the white part of white men was left out, but you can still smell it. Anyway, a place for men to publish mediocre literary fiction, because they've always struggled to get published.
Ha! Okay. Yeah, men publish mediocre literary fiction. Men do. Who are the guys all of you current crop of crap writers basically cribbing from? Is there anything good being published now? That isn't... Is there anything being published that isn't smut for women?
Right.
I stopped keeping up with mainstream
Flea
years
folks like
ago, so I couldn't answer that question.
Gabino got irate because they can never allow for the idea that there could be any draw.
This is quite the bathroom, I have to say. Look at this bathroom. This is wow. I don't know if I want to be on any substances in this bathroom though. Okay.
Backs to a saturated female market. It is psychologically impermissible to them.
I'm disappointed in your species.
That is why, when a publisher announces it will be focusing on male authors, it touches an insecurity. That women writers, women literary agents and editors have biases or blind spots, that there could be themes and matters.
No, I mean it cuts. Of course it hits on an insecurity. Because there are actually, these women are actually destroying the publishing industry. Just flat out destroying it. When they're done, nobody's going to be reading. They will have destroyed it as a medium. Right? They're going to feed upon its corpse until there's nothing left. And then, I don't know what we'll be doing in the future. We won't be reading books.
Outside
By the way, just guys chime in if you want. I'll pause it.
the reckoning or psychological reach of women, and that a gender imbalance.
Okay.
Just
So
say it.
I was going to say something, which is, I just checked a science fiction author I liked growing up and still like, Robert Heinlein, and he wrote a lot of his stuff starting in the 50s, like going back before then, but well, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and he kept going for decades. He was very prolific. And he died in the early 90s, I think. And like his stuff is still selling. I just looked up a bookstore online just with his books on it, and it's got like Starman Jones by him has 3 formats available. Time for the Stars, Double Star. Like I've seen his books here with modern covers, like modernized covers. People are still buying in books and reading them, except a lot of people I think and audiobooks too, yeah. And a lot of people are buying stuff that's like, these books are 40 years old, 50 years old or more, and people are still buying to read. And they're science fiction. They're old, but people still like reading them. Especially by science fiction stuff. Like, if by comparison, when these books were published, books that old would have been written in 1900 or 1910, roughly. Like a completely different world. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that's still popular, and a lot of that stuff is just older stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but they'll have killed modern novels. There will be a gigantic gap.
I've seen that. I've heard that. Yeah, a little dark age, as the song goes. But I've also noticed that with, I think music, it was mentioned that a lot of the most popular music with people who are, I think it was under 30 or something like that, or under 25. Maybe this was just in the UK, but a lot of it is stuff that is 30 years old or more. A lot of it is stuff from the 60s and the 70s even. Just the really fun, the big rock groups. That's a lot of the most popular stuff. And there are a lot of other things that are being listened to, but a lot of the stuff that's on the top of the charts for Spotify and places like that is decades old, even with younger listeners. And the same with video games. A lot of the most popular video games that are being played right now on Steam, I think, were 10 years old or something like that, maybe more. And they're more popular than older things.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually stop streaming on the horizontal.
More popular than newer things.
Guys, I'm going to stop streaming on the horizontal. I'll see if it stops streaming on the vertical. And we'll just focus on the vertical output for now. Sorry, guys. I just got to... I'm not sure if we can actually do 2 streams. So... let me see what's going on. All right, let me refresh. All right, I think we're still live on the horizontal. Actually, end stream. End. Okay, so we're going to be in the horizontal now. No more vertical. Let's see if that improves things. Because this is getting crazy. All right. Let's keep going. Continue, Telenor. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's okay. I was just about done, but it does seem to be the case that we are going through a little dark age of lack of quality. And maybe it's because there is no one to turn around and say, no, that's not good. You need to make it better.
Yeah.
And people aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, just migrate over to the vertical. Go ahead.
It's a little ironic that women are destroying the novel when at least one feminist claims that they invented it. Anybody remember Dale Spender? Or heard of her?
No, but I think I've read.
Nope.
I think I read that particular.
Yeah, she wrote a book called Mothers of the Novel: 100 Good Women Writers Before Jane Austen. And on page 6, I actually wrote this down. She actually says this, quote, "Quite simply, and in the face of the verdict of men of letters, it is my contention that women were the mothers of the novel and that any other version of its origin is but a myth of male creation."
Did men even argue over the origin of the novel? Wasn't it just considered something that just sort of emerged from the general gestalt of human knowledge?
I would have to read her book in more detail to know, but that quote sprung out at me, especially because it's actually not true. One of the oldest extant novels is a true story, which was written by a man in ancient Greece. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah, she's full of it.
Yeah.
In favor.
I'm just going to play some more.
A woman might have some downsides when it comes to the state and the appeal of publishing. Or that people sharing prevailing attitudes in the publishing industry might be lukewarm or disinterested in promoting male authors, and could therefore feasibly be thought of as culpable in suppressing voices, role models, and the exploration of important issues. This is a heresy. Hence the stroppy reaction to the publisher of Conduit Press, even though the UK has the Women's Prize for Fiction, the Women's Prize for Playwriting, the Warwick Prize for Women in Translation, the Leeds Literary Prize for Unpublished Fiction by Black and Asian Women in the UK, and the Women's Poets Prize. The US has the Perugia Press Prize open to women poets, the Red Hen Press Women's Prose Prize, the Sappho Prize for women poets, and the Daisy Petals House Older Women Writing Awards, the Elodie Awards for novels and short story collections by women, and Barbara Deming Memorial Fund for a woman writing fiction and non-fiction. Canada has the Carol Shields Prize for Fiction to honor women and non-binary authors in North America, and Australia has the Stella Prize to celebrate Australian women and non-binary writers, the Mona Brand Award for women and non-binary writers for stage and screen, and the Rachel Funari Prize for Fiction open to women, female-identifying, and non-binary Australian writers. There is a substantial array of prizes designed to give a leg up to a demographic that is already in the ascendancy to such an extent the disparity routinely causes national hand-wringing.
I've been internalizing a really complicated situation in my head.
Imagine an equivalent array of competitions where the criteria for entry is that you have to be a man, no woman need apply, in a publishing environment where 80% of literary agents were men, and the overwhelming majority of books bought were by men. It would be World War III. Do it the other way around, no problem. In fact, it is affirming. Over 82% of literary agents are women, with men comprising 14% and non-binary individuals 2.8%. A 2023 survey by Lee and Low found that 71% of publishing's workforce overall are women and 21% are men. The Lee and Low study is actually hilarious because the editorial analysis of the findings wants us all to solemnly reflect on the lagging number of women of color in the industry. But the fact only 14% of the agents are men, the huge, stampeding, trumpeting, leathery behemoth of an elephant in the room, doesn't warrant a mention as even a passing concern.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
There is no limit to the delusional omissions people are capable of. I suggest we should, as a culture, make a point of attributing less and less significance to all those fiction prizes strictly for women, as long as there is a massive disparity and gender imbalance in favor of women in publishing. There's no contradiction with Conduit Press there. That is attempting to address a legitimate, unmet need. It's not just the demographics on their face. It is attitudes, temperaments, interests, and background within these demographics. And this...
So they have all of these prizes just for women. And this man is one publisher who wants to focus on underrepresented male authors. And they have just gone ape shit. Even though they periodically do some kind of article on how, oh, men aren't part of the, men aren't reading, men aren't writing, that kind of thing. They periodically put out a piece on being concerned about it. But if you do anything to fix it, this is a common refrain. If you do anything to fix it, you're in the wrong. Like, it's like that whole thing with the feminists and saying sexual violence, we can't know what the rate is for men. And then when you say, well, but we have these studies that find that it's equal, it's likely equal, they're like, they have to be wrong. So are we saying that it's really difficult to capture sexual abuse of men? Therefore, we should look very closely at the studies that find that it's equal? Or are we saying that we should ignore them because they're obviously wrong? Well, how can you have both be right at the same time? How can you care about men not reading and not writing at the same time as you try to nuke from orbit any effort to get more men reading and writing? It's like, well, we can all acknowledge the problem and pat ourselves back on being so progressive about acknowledging this problem. But God forbid anybody actually do anything about it. We're going to shoot their knees out. Okay.
Well, of course, because helping men reinforces patriarchal oppression of women. Duh.
I think it's all just like, it's all just pretending we're doing something. Okay, Telner?
Yes. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this is one of those situations where there are a bunch of prizes that are at least nominally for everybody, men and women, and then a bunch of prizes that are women only. And based on what I've heard, the people awarding the prizes are also very biased in favor of women winning them. So it's basically become a very male exclusionary type institution or field. I guess it's a series. What was I going to say? Yeah, lots of exclusion. And also, I have seen another video about a similar topic, or about the lack of males in publishing, in which it was not just a mention of who's doing the writing, but the woman making this video, who is like the real editor or the no-nonsense editor, I can't remember what it is, for her YouTube channel, but she described she had a bunch of people argue back to her and say, no, there are tons of books being written by and for men. How can you even say that? And then someone saying that posted a bunch of books, and she looked at them, and every single summary was something along the lines of, like, a young gay black boy has his first love at the age of 12 with another 12-year-old boy, or something along those lines. Like almost all of them were about gay adolescents growing up, and so first of all she was saying, okay, if this is representation, it's aimed at a very small subsection of the general population, and even if you made it 12-year-olds having their first straight romance, the vast majority of men aren't going to read it just because, oh, there's a male protagonist. It's still not something that almost any man, gay or straight, is going to want to read.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's by a male author and contains a male protagonist, and it is aimed at almost no one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's watch a little bit more.
This has caused what, as a male writer, I would term the membrane. The layer modern male aspiring writers have to try and make their way through when it comes to soliciting prospective literary agents. Surviving as a literary agent or assistant in New York in your 20s is not easy. The entry-level pay is notoriously low, barely survivable, if at all, in New York City. So who are these people? They're an even mix of endearing people who often grew up in the Midwest or the Rust Belt, lower middle class, the parents divorced or struggling, but with a passion for books, who moved to New York, opting to live in the Bronx, south of Fordham Road, or in parts of Queens or Brooklyn, in tiny apartments with no money or furniture, barely able to scrape by from week to week, with no heating and no resources for emergencies, but determined to discover and champion great new authors. I'm just kidding. They are mostly young white women and often from relatively privileged backgrounds. That's not to say they aren't smart, ambitious, and dedicated. Many of them are. But the industry has long been criticized for its reliance on unpaid internships and low-paid starter roles only those with financial backing from mom and dad can realistically take. This creates a filter. The people who can afford to live in New York City on those wages often have family support, generational wealth, or partners who subsidize their lives.
I think this isn't going to be a good idea.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Well, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to second that motion.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if we're both right.
You can eat.
Okay, so essentially what he's saying is that there is no actual diversity in this modern era of diverse publishing. And also that it's being dominated by women who have... It's basically becoming a hobby, if you think about it. Because it's dominated by women who have other sources of income.
Passionate readers who studied English or creative writing sometimes...
Either they can rely on their parents' trust fund or their husband to make the money in order to continue to pursue their interests, which is going to distort the entire industry. Well, first of all, it's going to completely lock out men because men are not going to take a job in which they don't make money. That's not how that's not how the world be for men, shall we say. But it's also going to mean that people who don't have to work for a living are going to dominate stories of living. Okay. They're going to dominate stories of how we live. There's a little bit of might be an issue there, huh? Any thoughts from the...
It's more than just the fact that men don't want to work for nothing. It's also the fact that they tend to be penalized if they enter into female-dominated professions. Like, there's some study, and I'll try to find it, that they found that men who work in female-dominated professions are less likely to marry than ones who don't.
Well, yeah, because it's got the taint of ick about it.
Okay, here it is. I found it. It's called, the article is Occupational Sex Composition in Marriage, The Romantic Cost of Gender Atypical Jobs by Elizabeth Aurora McClintock.
And I'm guessing it didn't find the same thing for women.
No, women who were in male-dominated or unisex occupations, it didn't really matter. Like, women could work in female-dominated, male-dominated, or unisex occupational fields, and their marriage rates were more or less the same. Men who were in male-dominated or unisex tended to do much better than men who were in female-dominated fields.
Okay, so I always find it remarkable that women actually shame men for not doing things that make them less desirable for women. Like, and then they refuse to admit that it makes them less desirable. They refuse to admit that it's probably on some woman's list somewhere that pediatric nurse is an ick if a man does it. Okay. What you want, bud? Do you want down? Okay, you're going down. All right, let's listen to some more. Let's tell him Nar has something to add.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Times from elite liberal arts colleges and dreamed of working with books. The job carries a kind of romantic aura. It is also going to be more appealing to such a person to indulge in abstractions about identity and fantasy when you haven't had much experience in often grueling and transformative reality. It also means you might be slightly more blasé about demographics that don't appeal especially, such as white men, straight white men more especially, and middle-aged straight white men most of all. And why would you, if commercially there are far more opportunities and an economy of scale with women? Why not prioritize their query letters and submissions? Someone who got in touch with my channel said he worked in the US publishing industry for about 15 years. Even 20 years ago, he said, women already dominated all new hires. That wasn't the core problem. Rather, too many of those women were rich girls. There were few other ways to live in an expensive publishing hub like New York City while working as an editorial assistant, a job with little or no pay. Most of my fellow young co-workers didn't need to worry about the bills. They lived on money from their parents. Many of them had attended elite writing programs at prestigious schools. Meanwhile, a lot of the old heads were crotchety weirdos, exactly the types who'd pick challenging, daring manuscripts. They aged out. The rise in rich kid hires, more than the shift to women alone.
Why is it that rich kids don't choose, like, odd stuff, right? Why don't they choose stuff that's more challenging or more off the wall? I mean, their jobs aren't really reliant on it. Why do they choose everything that's safe? I mean, if you have so much damn money that you don't even really need to work, why wouldn't you just pursue craziness? Like, why now that the publishing industry is a dilettante, like, hobbyist quagmire, is everything so safe?
Is it possible that there is a demographic making up an increasing number of this industry or field that is more risk averse, including the risk of social ostracization?
Yeah. And maybe that's why everything is becoming more same and not
Stand,
actually
the disparity routinely causes...
Not actually, sorry, my cat started the video again. Not actually challenging any boundaries.
It's also the fact that women are largely influenced by feminist theory, which doesn't allow for much intellectual diversity at all.
Okay, you also put it back quite a bit there, buds. What is this? You're such an object of chaos, or no, an agent of chaos.
Few of us can relate. Why would a young, socially progressive, underpaid woman from a privileged background, immersed in a very identity-conscious literary culture, choose to champion a manuscript by a middle-aged man, especially if he's writing outside the bounds of trendy aesthetics or current discourse? Well, the reality is a bit more complex. They want a career. Regardless of background, most agents want to sell books. If your manuscript is brilliant, distinctive, and saleable, it represents an opportunity. The gatekeepers may be young and plugged into certain cultural lanes, but they are also business people. If your work feels like it has critical or commercial potential, even if you're not the moment demographically, they may take notice, but it might need the text alluding in some way to their interests, or that it frames identity or socio-cultural issues in certain ways. For male authors, rather than simply being a good manuscript per se, it will involve having to offer something that's impossible to ignore, that can win over a literary agent, even if she's 27 and went to Barnard. There's also been additional criticism from agents over the last few years that the fiction by men they can seem to get through to mainstream publishing have to either have a laundry list of diversity boxes ticked to be considered unique, or be very upper middle class.
Sorry.
With the most milquetoast of takes that fall in line with conventional thought.
Okay, so men either have to have a diversity CV or they have to fall in line. I'm pretty sure women have to fall in line too, judging from what I've seen. The circular firing squads in the publishing industry now. It's like innovation is dying. Anything new is dying. It's all just becoming homogenized slop. And the industry is dying. Like I said, all that's going to happen is these women are going to cannibalize it, kill it, and there's going to be a mini dark age. Maybe a maxi dark age. Okay. Thoughts, guys?
To be fair, there's really nothing new. I mean, if you read a lot of old books, and I mean old, like ancient or medieval, a lot of ideas have just persisted over time anyway. But it's really not an issue of new so much as it is an issue of variety. The publishing industry doesn't seem to be giving people much variety.
Oh, I like this little blurb here. Feminine rage, morally gray main characters, trauma rep, dark paranormal romance, revenge. I'm guessing this is a current day publishing house exec who's listing what she wants to publish.
Some people will sarcastically say, "Oh great, finally men get to have a voice." That joke may work in society at large, but in the world of books, the irony dies. There should be more men in literary fiction. Men should read more. We should cultivate a society where more men enjoy reading and reflecting on serious fiction. And we shouldn't have a publishing industry that makes them instinctively diffident or aloof. When, as a mainstream man, you enter a typical bookstore, you're confronted with tables and plinths of fiction you don't care about, written and marketed to women with Magical Mystery Tour and Andy Warhol and Willy Wonka factory levels of color and...
Yeah, it's starting to get... I don't know if this is actually an illustration of what he's talking about, but yeah. Like, could we dial back on the magenta and hot pink a little bit? Like...
Well, it might appeal to the bronies, like the male fans of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. That was a very pastel show.
Yeah, maybe, but I think most of all it seems to appeal to, I don't know, the 18 to 35 female demographic that really wants safe young adult stories but with lots of schmuck.
Swirling motifs and dynamics, and a prevailing sense that virtually nothing on offer is going to be regarded as cool, indie, stylish, generation-defining, essential, or groundbreaking, or that their authors are, or are ever going, to become dynamic, compelling cultural figures with a mystique.
Yep. No, there's nothing. Everything is just sameness, which is why the publishing industry's numbers are plummeting. And in fact, they've pivoted to turning the product being from books, so from selling books to would-be, or from selling books to readers, to selling publishing to writers. I don't know if you guys have known that. It's sort of like a depressing thing. A lot of publishing houses are now basically their business plan or business model is to sell publishing to writers. So to sell like editing and other things, and I don't know, basically they've become vanity presses. And that's the big industry now, is to just make money off of writers, aspiring writers. Huge industry now. It's pretty much what publishing has become.
I thought they were trying to sell the author themselves. Like, I know that most publishing houses don't invest in a lot of marketing, so authors have to really market themselves, and a lot of them flounder in that area.
Well, no, they're not actually marketing the author either. Like the publishing houses now don't help authors in any kind of attempting to sell their work. You have to do all of that yourself as an author, unless you're really big, but then your name does it, right? They've abdicated from that. I mean, yeah, they'll put out like, you know, if you're on the checklist, they might put something out about that, but no, they don't publicize books anymore. And the industry is pivoting towards the reader not being the customer, but the writer being the customer. And I think that's going to probably be the end of it.
Well,
The head
up by independence. Like I bought a book recently on, was it Indiegogo or Kickstarter, or one of the two, by Kevin J. Anderson, science fiction author again that I read recently. I think this was it's a trilogy. It looked really good and really interesting, but it's fantasy, or kind of a little fantasy science fiction, I guess you could say. And it looked interesting, and so I bought it. And it's just him on that platform just doing the advertising. And there are lots of people who are cutting out the middleman, and they're just making as much money or more. Like they're making a decent living doing it there as totally independent people. And they're having to learn to advertise for themselves and get attention for themselves. But that might wind up just taking over conventional publishing, at least in Western literature. I think the East isn't affected by this as much. But on the other hand, the feminists are definitely trying to put it to make them the same as us. So it might happen there too.
Oh, well, we'll see. Like you're right. Indie will take up some of the slack, but it's sort of depressing to realize that. And one of the funny things is that they'll put out, like the publishing houses will put out information like, oh, it's so difficult to get published, and that's creating the market for selling all of these services directly to writers. And so that they're starting to move into not seeing their business model as presenting work for readers to consume, but creating services for writers to rely on. And then they put out a book into the marketplace and see, and now there's just a ton of it, and it is literally just cannibalism. All right, let's leave the last of it.
Publisher of Conduit has occasionally written for The Guardian, and a quick check of the Insta page shows they do follow numerous female authors, including those of the identitarian variety. He acknowledges that men dominated in the past, and wants to focus on men who write literary fiction about compelling topics. I'm not overly enthused about a small publisher focusing on male authors. In an ideal world, there wouldn't need to be such carve-outs for anyone. But I'm glad it's going to be there, on balance, until the culture creakily and grudgingly comes back around. Hopefully not too many years from now.
Wow, hope springs eternal, huh? I honestly think nothing's going to be done until the entirety of the publishing industry is every single potential dollar has been squeezed out of it and consumed, and it's completely utterly, basically it's Tumblr. It's like a glorified Tumblr. Glorified.
I am now black-pilled.
A glorified archive of our own. Except at least some of those women can write. Good Lord.
You know, another part of the problem with the publishing industry, at least in the United States, might be how monopolized it is. And they refer to the big five a lot, like Penguin Random House, Macmillan, and a few others, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of competition among publishers.
No. Well, I mean, there's a lot of independents, but they don't have the same amount of clout. And again, I think those a lot of them are pivoting towards seeing the writer as the end consumer rather than the reader. But yeah, like it's I'm sorry to blackpill you there, Telenar. Are you telling me you weren't already sort of blackpilled on the publishing industry?
Well, I sort of thought that all of human civilization would collapse, but the publishing industry would be okay, so we'd still have nice books to read.
Yeah, Telenar was hoping to be that guy at the end.
I'm being sarcastic.
With his glasses, just reading with nobody bugging him, except his glasses broke.
Oh no! Spoiler!
Spoiler! Oh shoot! Well, we didn't even say what show that's from. I
Now
won't.
you're spoiling it more.
Oh, good. This is a plot point from some random thing that exists somewhere in the universe. Spoiler. In case you just come across it randomly. Okay. So yeah, that happened. Somebody tried to make an initiative to publish men, and he is currently being lasered off of the very planet by the publishing industry and its various hangers-on like a cancerous tumor. Because even though it's a crisis that men aren't reading or writing, if we do anything about it, we're horrible misogynists that blame women. And as you all know, I do blame women, and nobody can stop me. All right, let's see if there's anything interesting in the special chat. Actually, I think the stream ended up improving a bit. No, it fucked up again. But anyway, thank you for sticking with this, guys. I know it's been quite the journey, quite a rocky journey this time. Even more technical difficulties than usual. I'll have to look into improving my internet access here, which is more difficult than you can imagine in rural Canada, especially since Canada is in the process of deindustrializing and becoming a poverty-stricken hellhole. So anyway, with that positive note, also the publishing industry is becoming a poverty-stricken hellhole. No, not a poverty-stricken hellhole, a trust fund girl-stricken hellhole. So there we go. There's your black pill for the day. All right, I want to thank Telemnar and Doughboy for sticking with this. I want to thank everybody who stuck with it on the viewer end, because it has been a rough go, and hopefully we'll get some good shorts out of it at least. And yeah, have a lovely evening. If you want to send us a message at any time after the show is over, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. It's the best way to do it. And if you want to support the show, I think I probably have a thank you to give Richard, but I cannot access the back end of Feed the Badger at this station. So I'm going to thank you, Richard. I don't know what for, maybe for something, who knows. And thank you all for your kind attention, and we'll see you in the next one.